Right, here we go again, but not on our own this week, as we are joined by Per Wiberg, who is the current keyboard extraordinaire for Spiritual Beggars, rock and bass player for Kamchatka, as well as being one of the Opeth alumni. I have to open this week with quite an embarrassing admission to Per, and that leads us into discussing how the landscape of the music industry has changed since illegal downloading reared its head in the late 90s, and how musicians are now dependent on touring to generate income. Before the pandemic hit, which just so happened to be driving around Sweden in the snow with our very own Nate. This leads us on to how friendships you make from short, intense bursts of time with people on tour can lead to lifelong, enduring friendships. We learn how the European Summer Festival circuit is essentially an adult daycare centre for rock bands, and what it's like spending the summer bouncing around those festivals. That includes seeing famous people all queuing up together for lunch, the etiquette around approaching artists you're a fan of backstage, and how it's sometimes necessary to charter a plane to get from show to show. Finally, we bust out my cup of random questions towards the end, and all in all, we have an extremely insightful and very fun chat with an awesome guy who has spent his life on the road. New episodes of Tour Talk go live every Monday, so please subscribe, comment, and like if you enjoy what you hear, and help us spread the word by continuing to share this with anyone you think will enjoy. This is Tour Talk. I feel like I need to start this by apologizing to you, Per, a little. I know we haven't actually met before, but I feel like I owe you a small apology.
No, why?
I need to kind of set the scene a little, but if we roll it back to 2003 maybe, when I was 15, 16, and I was getting into new music and bands, I had a bunch of friends who were way cooler than I was, and introduced me to say bands like Sick of It All or At the Drive-In or Oz and Matley and all these bands that I never would have come across.
Okay.
And we used to chill at one of my friends' houses and we'd have a little drink. I mean, his parents were quite liberal. And one time they were playing this band and it was this super heavy kind of blues, hard rock, but this guy with this mega aggressive but melodic vocal at the same time. And I was like, fuck, that band's awesome. It's kind of like a Deep Purple on steroids kind of thing. So it turned out to be Spiritual Beggars, which was awesome. At which point they burnt me a CD of On Fire. And then I went home and illegally downloaded a couple of songs from what probably would have been Kazar at the time or something like that.
Yeah.
And I put those songs on my shitty little MP3 player and I rocked out to Spiritual Beggars all the time. But I never bought the records, so I just wanted to start off up front and apologize for that.
I think it would have mattered too much, though.
I was thinking about it today, and it led me to a question, because obviously you were in a band prior to the whole illegal downloading, streaming and everything. So you would have seen the industry change through all of that. And as a result, I think there's now more emphasis on touring to make money and for bands to earn a living that way. Whereas from what I can kind of understand, touring originally was a way to promote the record in a sense and increase album sales. Am I right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think it depends a little bit on what genre of music you're doing as well. For me, I would say within the big picture, everything I've done is within, subgenres of underground music, kind of.
Okay.
Like anything called metal this or metal that, or rock or punk rock or whatever it is, but it's never been popular music, mainstream. So doing that, I think it's more or less the similar, but with the difference that you just take away album sales.
Which makes things a lot harder, yeah?
Yeah, but I think all the stuff that I've been doing has always been based on the joy of playing live. It's
okay.
Everything that you write and record and rehearse, it's always with the ambition to play live.
Sure, I get that.
I mean, there's shitloads of other kinds of music where that's not even a goal, which is also cool. But the stuff that I've made a living out of playing has always been centered around like concerts and touring and playing live.
Cool. So did you kind of feel that shift as the industry changed where like, I mean, because from what I can kind of gather, like now a band will try and play in like a territory every year as opposed to maybe it might be a couple of years or there wouldn't be as much stress on it. Does that sound about right? Or
if you want to make a living playing music, you have to get out there and do it. For me personally, it's never been a problem because I love it. I still do. I still love touring because that, depending on how much time you get on stage, whether it be 30 minutes or 2 hours, that's what makes it worth, doing it to me. It's also, I mean, having done this, I haven't really done anything else in my whole adult life.
Which is amazing.
So, man-child, So, this is what I know. And I still like it. I love doing it. So it's of course a certain kind of lifestyle as well.
Yeah.
So I know lots of people my age that for whatever reasons they're not, as keen on going on longer tours or getting out there anymore, which is fine, I just happen to be one of the guys that still like doing it, So
does it place like a different stress on touring now though, without like having that, what I assume would be like financial support from a label, like whether it be tour support or actually just investing more money in a band in general?
Sometimes it can be good as well. If you're a small band, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. Because it's never been easier to put out music on your own either, like as today. And so I think being a small band before and being supported by labels who maybe spend a little bit of money on you, obviously they're not giving the money to you. They want to have something back, and you have to work, do this or that in order to sort of recoup, as it's called, or hopefully make some more money for the label and yourself. So I think, in a sense, if you're a small band and just want to go out and play, not full time, but I mean, it's possible to do it. Now, if you want to make a living doing it, it's a very different thing. And I think it's very different because there's no second chances really. Like if you're under the wings of a label that cares and wants to invest in you for a longer amount of time, that's not going to happen today. But it did before. You could make, they didn't expect you to make a profit until, let's say, after the third album or something like that.
Sure.
That'll never happen today. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
So both yes and no. If you're a bigger band, you're a bigger band, You're always going to have people come to the show. So you more or less know that what kind of financial situation you're in, so to speak, because you can see ticket sales. And I mean, there's obviously a million ways of, counting streams and whatever way you're selling your music, today as well. But I mean, for established bands, they're established. To me, it's not that much of a concern, really. When you look at that, it's way different for younger bands and smaller bands. I'd say.
Okay. Hey, Nate, did you ever download any of Per's music illegally, or was it just me?
Just you. I've paid for every piece of music I've ever.
I'm the piece of shit.
Yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
I will say this. Per, you should plug the website, the Bandcamp, because I've recently ordered a bunch of stuff off of it, and it's all been really awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
What did you order?
A couple different albums, some pins, a T-shirt, a condom. I think it. Well, there was
Used one?
there was a used one in the
Yeah,
package,
okay. But
I wasn't sure if that was
that's
just
the
for
cheaper
me.
one.
Per, will you? You know, I got to spend some time with you a year ago, almost to the month, traveling around Sweden in the snow in a station wagon. We got to spend a lot of time together in hotels and venues. It was only 4 days, but I'm sure for you it felt like an eternity. And
This was the last time you guys have toured, by the way, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
This is your last touring experience before lockdown, so I can't wait to hear.
and
driving Nate around Sweden. That was the last live experience. I
Yeah.
had.
So what a punishment for you to, I ended what I felt like was on a high note, and I think you ended the year on in a really low place. Just
I was happy doing that.
well, I had a great time with you, and I will say before I ask you this question is that when Per says he loves touring, he is the easiest person. No offense, Dario. He's the easiest.
I'm not trying to be the easiest person.
He's the easiest person I have ever spent time with on tour. It was such a pleasure just listening to music with you and talking about music, and eating reindeer hot dogs and going to a famous vegetarian spot in Stockholm. It was a delight, and I look forward to many more of them. But I was curious to know. I heard some great stuff, and I kind of wanted anyone who listens to this to also have the same experience of knowing about the town you grew up in Sweden, and then your experience of going to see like some concerts that you saw, and about some ones that stand out kind of in your mind from growing up.
I come from. I do live in Stockholm now, but I come from a smaller town, like a kind of a steel mill town, industry town, 3 hours northwest of, 2.5 hours northwest of Stockholm. So when I was a kid, we always had to, in order to see any bigger bands or anything like that, we had to travel to Stockholm. That was like the closest any tour would come by. So, well, I can't remember if it was anything specific that we talked about. Maybe I lied to you, Nate, but
I remember you said you had seen, maybe you said you saw, I think it might have been Rage Against the Machine, or was it Pearl Jam at that place that was like super, super small, or was it the Bad Brains?
well, I've seen all of those in those days. But yeah, Pearl Jam, they came and played a smaller club in Stockholm before they sort of made it big. It was a little. I can't remember what it was called now. It's not around, that venue anymore. They tore it down, and I think the cap was like 650, but I know that it was more than 800 people in there.
Wow.
And I ate something bad and had to stand in line for like 20 minutes for the men's room, and then I lied under a table before Pearl Jam started because I felt so bad, and I wasn't even drunk. And it was a bunch of friends of mine. We had driven down from Borlänge, which the town is called, to Stockholm, and there were no pre-sales or anything for tickets or anything, so we just went by chance to see if
You
we
just
could
had to
get
turn up and buy a ticket on the door.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
And that was how it was for that club?
Yeah, for that show, that was. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's give it a shot. So so we went down there and managed to get in. So which was cool to see that band in a small room like that. And they only they'd released the first album, but they played the whole album. So they did. I know they did a Fugazi song, and I can't remember if they played another cover tune as well.
Did you know then that they were going to be big? Like, was there a vibe in the room? Was it one of those shows where, like, it's just electric and you know that
there
this
was
is
a
a real band?
serious vibe, like a buzz, a real buzz. I think most of the people that, or pretty much everyone that was there, to them it was the next big thing. It was not like completely mainstream yet, or at least not in Sweden at the time. So,
did you know that before going? Were you like, this is going to be the next big thing, or was it when you were at the show you're like, shit, this is it?
I think all of us knew about the band because everyone knew about Mother Love Bone, the band before, and obviously a few other bands from the same area had made it big already. So they were not a secret like that. Everyone knew what they were going to see. It was just that this Pearl Jam at the time, they weren't the biggest band from that period.
But I can imagine, like, because now everything's on YouTube and you can see a band pretty much do everything before you ever get to see them live. Whereas I could imagine back then it was as much word of mouth or little bits that you may have seen on TV, but you couldn't have been sure of what you were going to see, surely, compared to now.
No, that's true. But it was like all of us were always checking out Headbangers Ball and 120 Minutes on MTV when they showed music videos on MTV. So, like, those two shows, 120 Minutes, that was more like alternative and indie stuff. Cool. And Headbangers Ball for the more heavy stuff. But I mean, if you saw those two shows and Yo MTV Raps, because I like hip hop a lot as well, but those two shows, then you pretty much knew what was going on.
I grew up on that. So 120 Minutes was Matt Pinfield. Headbangers Ball was Ricky Rackman.
Yeah, we had different hosts in Europe.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't even realize. I thought it was just the same show, just translated.
That's a very
no. We had different hosts actually.
I thought I thought America was the only country in the world, and that everything was just exported.
Yeah, that's the most American thing you've done on this podcast so far. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Except I'm sending a missile to both of you guys right now. You have 15 minutes before it hits. So, good luck.
Yeah, I can see Russia from here.
Per, who talked you into going on tour with Nate and driving him around Sweden? And
he did.
Convinced you it was really?
He asked me.
Because I feel I've fallen for the same shit as well at some point in life, and I just wanted to hear how he talked you into doing it too. Because fuck knows how he does it.
It was just a pleasure, though. I had fun doing it. It was nice going on a short, like, weekend tour kind of, and not having to play.
And we played some. We were at some strange places too. The ski resort was what a weird place to play. It was beautiful, but
yeah,
that was a surprise, I think, for both of us.
Yeah, it was. And during wintertime, I'm really into sports, like watching sports, especially skiing of all kinds, downhill and cross country, and biathlon. That's not a big sport in your country.
Never even heard of it.
No. It's like cross country, but you shoot things as well.
Oh, yeah. That's in the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
where you played, that's like the center in Sweden for like the pro athletes to train and work out. So
It was amazing.
so when I've seen competitions on TV this season, like just a couple of weeks ago actually, and it's from there.
Wow.
I just laughed.
Well, to give everyone a point of reference, we pulled up, and it's a giant tower. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, 13, 15, 20 stories tall, and the tower overlooks the Olympic Training Center, and everything's covered in snow and woods as far as you can see. And it's like a 360-degree view. With the venue was like a glass restaurant venue that overlooked this whole area. And we got there kind of just before the sun was coming down, which was like at 2 p.m.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
You've got some great photos of this, haven't you, Nate?
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure
I
you
mean,
sent us-
who knows where they are? I take a picture and then it's just fucking. I never look at it again, so I stopped doing it.
I will fuck that idea then.
And that's like pretty much in the middle of Sweden. That city. It's called Östersund.
And that was
Okay.
actually that was a really good show. The crowd that came out to that was particularly good, and
They liked your stuff.
yeah, which is shocking. Anytime someone likes what I do, it's always a little awkward. I think they have some mental impairment. I don't know if that what they're
No.
Just to kind of give a little bit more context, had you guys ever met before Per agreed to drive you around? Was there some link, or was it the fact? How did it come about?
many times.
Yes, I think the first time we met in
okay.
person might have been in Philly.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so I'll give a really quick history. Per, you played with Opeth.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, if they're listening, you played keys in Opeth for quite some time.
Yes.
And Opeth's booking agent and my booking agent forever is Tim Borer. And Tim also, how I got linked up with Tim was through a band called Clutch, who you have been friends with the guys in Clutch and John Paul and these guys for years, right?
Yeah, for a long time.
What's your connection to them?
Well, the first time we did a tour together with them, with Spiritual Beggars and Clutch.
Wow.
Before in '03, and on the On Fire tour, Dario.
Yeah, I saw. I had a look. I found a poster of that actually. I knew Clutch were going to come up at some point in this conversation, so I made a
Yeah.
mental note. But I can imagine that was some show.
So
Wow.
before that tour, I didn't really know. I didn't really know the guys in Clutch. I met them briefly when they played in Stockholm in '98. The first time I saw them live was in '95 in New York, I think.
Wow.
Because I liked the band. I've always liked them, and it was really cool. It turned out that they liked Spiritual Beggars as well. So the European tour we did together was good fun, and we shared a bus on that one. And as you know, it's impossible to not know each other after sharing a bus for more than 3 weeks.
Is it
So-
true there was that nobody drank beer on that tour?
No one drank beer on that tour.
I don't know how
there were
to-
no beers had on that tour at all.
I can't even. I would fucking kill to have just been a guitar tech on that tour. I mean, what a time.
Yeah, no, that was good fun. And then we just stayed in touch since then, especially me and JP, the drummer from Clutch, and we did or we still do, you could say, a project together called King Hobo, and which put out 2 albums, and I've guested with Clutch as a guest keyboarder.
Mhm.
lots of times through the years, both in the States and Europe and Scandinavia.
I think it's really cool, and I don't know how much like people actually realize that there are these like enduring relationships that can be built off like spending 3 weeks together, and then before you know it, you are friends with people for 20 years plus, and
Yeah.
it's a real friendship that like kind of sticks, and like no matter, it might be 6 months or a year before you see the guys again, but it's the same thing and it's the same situation. And I think that's one of the nicer sides of touring for sure. I mean, there's definitely people you meet on tour where that doesn't apply, and you're very happy to never be on that tour again. But I think there are some real kind of friendships made between bands and artists that I don't know whether people will really understand how deep those things go. It's not just a passing, hey, how's it going? It's a real friendship.
Yeah, and that's super cool. It's nothing that you take for granted, but it's nothing that you think about either, because it's so natural, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, people that don't tour or don't play music, they ask me, or anyone that's in a band, I guess, that who's the worst person you've ever toured with, or who's the biggest idiot you've ever met while on tour, you know. And honestly, there aren't that many, you know, and usually they're not in bands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know. I think that's, people just want to play their music and have a good time, you know, and it's not strange that a lot of people connect.
Mm-hmm.
And there's usually a lot of things to talk about as well, if you come from different parts of the world, you know. So.
Well, let's flip it. Have you got a favorite band or artist that you like touring with? Is there like if something's like put to you by a booking agent, is there something that you always want to say yes to, or?
It's difficult. It's
not Nate, so that's fine.
No, but it's a little bit different. I mean, if you compare things, when I was in Opeth, it was very, you know, organized and kind of on a certain level of things, which was very enjoyable, and the guys are nice, so it's no big hassle. But it's a different story. Let's say if I tour with a band, like I'm playing bass in a band called Kamchatka these days, which is like a 3-piece heavy rock, blues rock styled band, and we do everything on our own. So we drive, we sell, we play, you know, everything on our own, and then touring becomes a lot different compared to, or if I was out with Spiritual Beggars or Candlemass the last years as well. It's a different type of touring, you know. So.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't think there's no right or wrong way to do it, but
No.
Some bands are more laid back. Sometimes there's like one person who's kind of in charge of the whole thing. Some bands drink a lot, some bands don't. Some are quite organized, and I don't know whether people really realize how different it can be from band to band. And you're a great person to ask that, because you've toured quite extensively with different artists at different levels and different styles. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like a good party, you know, but you can't do that if you do like a Kamchatka tour, because there's 3 of us and we have to drive, you know. It's like, it's not part of the plan really, you know. If you have a day off, you go, or let's say the evening before the day off, you go out, you know, and bar hopping or whatever. That's cool, that's fun. But then otherwise it's pretty much most of the hours you're in the van, and the other hours of the day you're setting up gear and taking down gear, or playing if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So it's like, so with other bands, I think also that's like one of the reasons why so many bands do still enjoy festival season in Europe, you know, because then it's a little bit more loose, so to speak.
Why is that?
So it's like daycare center for elderly or
Yeah.
middle-aged rockers, the whole summer through. Like you get driven all over the place and you go there, play for 45 minutes, see you in the bar.
That's exactly what it's like. And obviously, backstage at all these festivals, there is a communal area for all these bands to hang out. And generally, because the drives are much shorter than they would be in the States, there's no rush for anybody to leave. So,
No.
festivals, I mean, America seems to be doing a lot more of that with the summer festival thing. And there's like a lot of.
It's just starting here for rock,
Yeah. But it's been a big thing in Europe for a long time. And is that something that, like, American bands kind of look forward to coming over to Europe in the summer?
Oh my God, it's the best.
Yeah, I
mean,
think so.
I've had very limited. I mean, I've had some great but limited experiences with it, and it's just so interesting because with my I mean, and this kind of pairs together with how Per and I kind of met is that like most of the bands that I like anyway are in Europe, so you're not only are you meeting people that are cool. You have an admiration. I mean, I remember actually meeting Per in Philly and being like, Per, man, like, because Clutch had turned me on to Candlemass and Spiritual Beggars and Opeth and just kind of like everything you have been a part of and Kamchtka for that matter. I mean, I know you weren't playing with them at the time, but so there was this thing where I was like, hey, man, I'm such a big fan of like what you do on the keys. Like I'm just a fan. And Per was like, I'm a fan of yours, And I was like, this is awkward now because we're in love with each other. And then I think that's the real treat is not only getting to meet people that are cool, but you find people that you're fans of what they do and what in any industry that you're in to meet somebody and spend time with somebody and learn from somebody that you are a fan of what they do. I think that's the real special kind of treat,
Yeah. It's a lot of like sometimes you meet bands or people that you've been, especially during the festival season where you get to meet and hang out with a lot more people than on a regular tour where you sort of shied away from everything. You have to do your shit every day, and I'm usually quite shy when it comes to. I would never walk up to a person and say, "Hey, I really love your stuff," and I'm not good at doing those things. Some people are really good at doing those things, and they get away with it without being a jerk.
Is there anybody that you like felt compelled to do that to? Or with? Is there like anyone that made you break the mold?
Luckily, I've ended up in situations where you have to address someone. You end up next on a plane or in line for the food or whatever, and that I'm fine with saying things like that, but I'm not the one who knocks on a dressing room door but some people can do that and they get away with it. I would never get away with it. I would just be punched in the face and thrown out of there. No.
But it is getting away with it. It's almost like kind of not frowned upon, but it's like you would get away with it, but it's not like that's the done thing to go and like approach like that, is it?
I think it depends how big the person is that wants to do it. Like
I'm small.
if I mean I'm just saying like if if Lemmy was coming to knock on your trailer door and because he wanted to say hi to you, that's totally cool. But if it's
you knocking on Lemmy's
honestly
door.
if it's anyone else aside from Lemmy, it's probably a bad idea.
Yeah, but that has actually happened when like one of those things we played a festival in Greece with Opeth many years ago and together with Judas Priest and
wow
and KK Downing knocked on the door and just wanted to pop in and say hi and said that I really like your band and everyone, all of us was like you're in the wrong room, man. It's like
That's so cool.
It must be the next one. So those things are that's really cool, you know. And then it's always with really big bands, or regardless of genre or whatever. It's like it's almost like you don't believe it anyway.
Yeah.
I was going to ask because, like, as a lot of the time as a musician, like, you undersell yourself and you don't believe you're as good as you maybe are, or you're where you deserve to be. Like, a moments like that where KK Downing walks into your dressing room and says, "I'm a fan of your band," like reaffirming even for like a moment that you're doing the right thing or you've actually achieved something, or do you just not believe it, like you said?
No, but I think I can speak for the other guys in Opeth, but it felt almost like all the ones that were in the dressing room, was like everyone was happy, of course, to see someone like that, which would be one of the guys that has influenced Michael and Opeth, of course, and everyone is happy about that. But then it's like, do you think he really meant that? Maybe he just read the sign on the door and was polite. You know, he's British.
I had a horrifying experience once in Philadelphia, actually, at the Trocadero.
Yeah.
And Lion Eyes was opening for the Bad Brains. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, for us, that was like, you know, we did a run with them that was like, I think it was like Philly, New York, and DC. Huge honor. And I want to say it was Lion Eyes, the Jizza from Wu-Tang Clan, and the Bad Brains. That was the bill. So for us, it was just insane. We probably shouldn't have been on it. And
that's insane.
Earl Hudson watched our set from the side of the stage.
Yeah.
Sitting on a chair like this, he was grooving. He was like super into it. The house music was really loud, and I remember kind of getting off stage, and he like said something to me. But it was Earl, so like I really wanted to know what he was saying. He was like, and I was like, sorry, and I leaned in and I was like, I couldn't hear you. And he said something again, and I could tell I couldn't hear him, but he was trying to like say it to me. So I asked him again. I said, I'm sorry. I leaned in and I said, I'm sorry, man, I can't hear you. And at this point, he was really annoyed that he had to repeat himself, and he goes, "You guys sounded good," and then he like stormed away because I really annoyed him because I kept being like, I'm sorry, man, I can't hear you. So I blew that one.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's cool though.
One of my favorite drummers of all time was just really annoyed that I existed.
Do you think that he thought you were milking it, like you had like?
No,
you were just an idiot.
Yeah.
I think he has quite a surly disposition anyway, and I think he probably, in my estimation, probably very rarely doles out compliments to like this little white boy on stage. And I could tell that it was loud, and I was annoying him, and he was kind of like warming up his drums, and it was just one of those things where I should have just been like, thank you, and walked away, even if I didn't know.
Yeah, at least you know, though. At least you know.
Correct.
That's very cool, though.
I just want to quickly go back to the catering thing, because it is one of the weirdest sights at a festival to watch. Because it's always like random people from random bands like lined up at catering, like there'd be like 20 guys from like 10 different bands all in a row, kind of like trying to get the last bit of chicken or making sure that they get all the fries or whatever. Like, it is one of the weirdest sights I've ever seen.
Back to school.
Almost.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter who you are, you have to get the food.
That's it.
Yeah.
Everybody's got the same token.
Yeah,
everybody has to line up.
Very quickly, I was a part of a Vans Warped Tour 2 different times, and everyone on that tour was super punk rock and just super like, you know, everyone from the headliner to the smallest band waits in the same line. It doesn't matter who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
And if you have your crew, some bands didn't want to leave their tour bus or the dressing room or whatever, and they would have their crew wait in line and pick up their food for them. And I don't mind that. But there was a particular band on multiple occasions, and I can't say who the band is, but I can tell you that they were in full regalia, makeup, the whole nine, sat down at a table 10 feet away and made their fucking crew stand in the line and walk their food over to them multiple times. Nothing upset me more than watching that happen and just being like, these poor fucking crew guys do not get paid enough money to do that.
True
Like,
punk rock.
How embarrassing.
Yeah.
You're usually not the most reserved in situations like that, Nate. Did it compel you to say anything at any point, or?
No, I knew they were one of the headliners, and I kind of knew my place. You know what I mean? Like, because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, dude, you guys are dicks. And then they're like, cool, we're headlining this festival. What slot are you on?
Yeah.
You're totally right. I'm going to go back to my merch tent.
One more thing on festivals, just while I remember. I don't know whether, I can't remember what year it is, so I don't know whether you still would have been in Opeth at that time, but I saw Opeth headline the second stage at Download. It must have been like around 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember it because, one, the show was great, but I felt like maybe a couple of members in the band weren't overly impressed that Opeth were, obviously, this amazingly technically brilliant band, were headlining the second stage. And I think it may have been Motley Crue or Whitesnake were on the headline in the main stage or something like that. And there were regular comments during the set, okay, now this next song is Whitesnake or something along those lines. And I remember there being a
Motley Crue.
Was it Motley Crue?
Yeah, it was. I remember that year. It was the comeback year for Faith No More. They headlined.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
the main stage.
Yeah,
Perry, you were there.
Day. So I saw that gig. And that was I think that was one of the first shows they played in Europe.
Yeah, they headlined the Friday night as well. It was mega.
And that was great. Yeah, we played that second stage on that. I remember that. we if I'm not mistaken, that was the only time in my life where we had a private plane chartered to make it to the next day's festival.
Wow.
And because you would think when you say private plane, you sort of envision things, right?
Mm-hmm. How was it for you?
Well, I don't know. I think all of us understood that this is not going to be fun. It's going to be a 4-hour plane from Birmingham to northern Finland.
Oh, wow, okay.
A small one where you barely could fit band and crew and no bathroom.
Wow. Did this thing have propellers and everything? Or?
Yes. And
Jesus.
And
were you nervous?
No, not really. Everyone was so hungover, so I think that was the only way of doing it. Really, it's like you sort of when you first hear that, in order to get you to the next festival, we need to charter a plane for you. Okay, that's cool. You just kind of envision yourself on a couch, just sleeping and having
there's like a revolving dance floor and
chilled drinks or whatever. And instead, you were sitting, like just crammed in, like this, trying to sleep. Amazingly hungover or kind of in between, and trying to, make it for 4.5 hours. And
wow.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting because this is where, especially during festival seasons, there's like a balance and a trade-off between like what the booking agent thinks is possible versus like reality and what the tour manager can actually make happen and what the band can actually endure.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that's the only time where you've been in a tight situation to get from one festival show to another.
Yeah. I think everyone was, liked the idea of having a chartered plane, but not so much when everyone could see it,
So they didn't let you know what kind of plane it was beforehand. They just
No.
That's smart.
Yeah.
You've been tour managed right there. That's fucking
Yeah,
brilliant.
exactly. I think that was the only chance of getting us over to Finland.
So, because you would have had to take all your backline as well and
Yeah.
full
Yeah,
band and crew.
we didn't carry that much gear.
Okay.
But that was also, some of it was, if I remember, it's one of those cargo companies that ships gear between festivals in Europe. So obviously we only had to bring small pieces. I mean, a couple of guitars and keys or whatever, which is easy to carry. And you can't fit that much on small plane like that either. So
just while we're on download, because especially here in the UK, like with its history of being like Monsters of Rock and everything, it's just got this massive history to it, and it's a big thing over here. Does that translate to the States and the rest of Europe as well? Is it a big thing to be headlining a stage at download?
Well, I mean, before Download, it was called Monsters of Rock, and that was a big thing to me when I was a teenager, and because that was one of the festival shows that you could only dream that you could go and see, to the UK to see Monsters of Rock with all the best heavy rock.
And Monsters of Rock was like a one-day, literally the best 8 bands in the world at that point. That was the great thing about Monsters of Rock.
Yeah, so we had 2 Monsters of Rocks in Sweden in the 80s, in 84 and 85 or 86, and it was AC/DC, Van Halen, and Motley Crue in 84, and I was there rocking out, and I realized really then as well that Motley Crue sucks. Even as a young teen, it's a horrible band. But so
co-sign that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was. I remember when I was sitting watching Motley Crue. It's like the only thing that's good with this band is they got an amazing drummer. He's a fantastic musician. No one can take that away from him. It's amazing rock drummer. But it was just painful. 35 minutes or whatever it was. But AC/DC and Van Halen rocked, of course.
Wow.
So that was kind of, I had older friends that I went to the UK to see, maybe that was 83 something. Monsters of Rock with Motorhead and who else? I'm gonna say Saxon. 82 or 83, it was one of those Monsters of Rock. Or was it Reading?
Reading's a big thing too, but I mean,
yeah, it was one of those. But I'm thinking Monsters of Rock, wasn't that at Donington Park?
Yeah, which is the same.
Yeah,
venue as
exactly.
Download.
But it's called Download these days.
Yeah.
So
Nate, is Donington and Download a big thing in the States? Is that like something you aspire to, or?
Yeah, I think it's all over the world. People know that, like, for the UK, getting a good slot at Download can change your career in terms of your visibility in the UK. And I think if you get a great slot at Download, it kind of also opens up the rest of Europe, because I think all of Europe kind of looks at that lineup and says that's still kind of the for rock music. This is what people want.
it's a good thing to do, and it's a fun thing to do as well. I mean, it's a good. I haven't played there since then.
Oh wow!
So, and we played there once before as well in 2004, which was good fun as well.
I do distinctly remember your set and that anti-Motley Crue vibe emanating from the stage. It was very funny. It was very tongue-in-cheek, and it was very funny to watch, I've got to say. It was, and you guys were great, so like that was cool. But it is funny that, like, if you look around Europe during the summer, that essentially the same 40 bands play every single festival around Europe, and then you just see the lineups turn upside down depending on who's bigger in which market. But essentially, all these bands are going on tour together for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and doing weekend shows, and then the odd off show in between. And it must just be like doing a full European summer run like that. Must just be a big party with a load of friends that you've worked with over the past 20 years and just having a good time.
Yeah, it's good fun. Especially like you say, if you end up on the same, what do you call it, like the same festival cycle, so to speak, depending on what bands are on the road or whatever. But I think that's one of the reasons why you make a couple of new friends every summer of those, because when you end up with the same bands on each festivals and so on, I mean, sooner or later you're gonna have a toast. And
Swedes are generally pretty good at having a toast, from my experience.
I guess.
They're very keen to have a toast too.
Yeah. Beers are good for you. No,
I like drinking with Swedes.
It's pretty cool these days, but you know.
I mean, I tour managed the Eagle Eye Cherry, and his band were all Swedish, obviously, and they were they really did enjoy having a pre and post show drink, to say the least, and they were very, very good fun on tour as a result of that. But also quite easy to manage, because like you knew what they were going to do, and they knew the remits to do it in, and it was good fun, and that's kind of nice to. Yeah,
I bet. He's got a good bunch of. Well, it depends. He's had many different lineups, I guess, but he always has great musicians.
Yeah, they were top.
Yeah,
they were top guys.
Are we pulling stuff out of the cup with Per?
Yeah. Do you love or hate the cup? I can't tell.
It's my favorite part of the show. It is.
I don't know whether
great.
Per's actually watched any of these before, but like, I generally try to pick a topic at random out of this cup, which is actually funny. We mentioned Eagle Eye, like an Eagle Eye Cherry cup that I got in Brazil.
There you go.
It's filled with his own urine and questions.
The urine thing is exclusively a lionized thing. You're the only guys that piss in cups on a regular basis. Like, don't try and drag me down just because I've worked
Per,
with you
did I pee in a bottle ever in the car when we were driving together?
Not that I could see, no.
Okay.
There's
Just
only
checking.
4 days, though.
No, he was behaving.
I was a very good boy on that trip.
Yeah.
What does it take to get that out of Nate Bergman and being a good boy for a whole
guess
trip?
Maybe it was just the initiation kind of.
Yeah, it was the first one. The
Yeah,
second
exactly.
one's going to be way worse.
Are you actually, when we get back to this, will you behave, Nate? Will you be a good boy on tour, or are you going to go all out?
For the first one or two, yeah, for sure.
Per, are you going to go in like whole hog? Are you going to really commit to that first one and make sure you enjoy it as much as possible, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, I'll pick a random topic and we'll see what the fuck we get.
Man.
What was that?
Oh, I mean, well, fucking planes, but we've done private planes, haven't we?
Oh yeah.
Nate, have you ever been on a chartered private plane? Has anybody ever flown you to a festival?
Never. I'm not that caliber musician.
Yet. Go on.
I was going to say yet.
Well, yeah, but my private plane is going to be a lot different than the one you described.
No, I'm definitely not a private jet. Well, this was not a jet either, so.
Yeah, mine's going to be a jet.
A private propeller.
Clearly.
Like, I'm more of a cross-country skiing musician these days, I guess.
I feel like everything I'm pulling out here, we've already talked about. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground today. It's quite impressive. Like backstage, we talked about backstage at festivals. We talked about planes. All right, venues, right? Have you got a favorite venue, like one you want to go back to when all this is done? Have you got somewhere in mind that like you've either had a favorite show or best show or anything like that?
I like lots of venues.
Yeah, you can say, you can list them all. That's cool.
That's a boring answer, but if we focus on what countries we're from here, and this it would be the UK and the States then. I used to like to play. I know it's gone now, but the Trocadero in Philly.
Oh yeah, great. We
That
talked
was-
about that earlier. It was a great venue.
That was a good vibe. It's a nice old theater styled, but still people were very close, and
Great
and
venue.
And it also had I liked the sound on that stage because it was loud.
There's
It's
a
like
lot of
old
cool, like,
wooden stage.
there's like a lot of cool old ballroom type venues in the States, isn't there?
Yeah,
When you do
Yeah.
those tours where they're like maybe 1,500, 2,000 cap venues, and they're all kind of these old cool ballrooms where there's weird staircases going to random places, and
yeah. That was a cool place. I like that was nice.
A lot of those places are designed for orchestra pits, you know.
Yeah,
So the sound is going to be amazing anywhere in the venue, and you're going to have a straight sight to the. They're built in more of a round shape instead of a square box, so
yeah.
you can kind of see from any angle.
No, that was a nice place. But it's gone since a couple of years, right?
Yeah, it's
4 or
done.
5 years or something.
It's done, yeah.
Yeah.
is that actually like a indicative of where the industry's at? That a lot of these venues are disappearing, like these cool older venues. Nate, you seem to have a
Yeah, I think so. In the States, for sure. It's definitely moving more corporate, more.
I don't remember why they tore it down, but that particular one I meant. But I mean,
Property value, changing neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know.
so yeah, that was cool. I like that. Plenty of good venues though in the States, and obviously, like you saying, the corporate. Some of them are a little boring, but they're still nice to play. Like the House of Blues
Yeah.
are cool.
House of Blues gets a bad rap, right? But
It
as
does,
a
yeah.
touring band, they're always clean. They always feed you. The amenities are always not. You know, it's hard to complain. Like, I know they are corporate, but they do definitely take care of the musicians when they're there, which is something when you're touring in a van, especially, is just like
Yeah, it's a good
lifesaver.
setup. I mean, they're built to have live music, so
Exactly.
that's really cool. And
What about in
and
the UK? Have you got a favorite venue over here?
the first show, I'll say this though about the UK, as UK get a lot of bad rep and among touring musicians. We had like in the late 90s when we started touring with Spiritual Beggars, we
Mhm.
had such a good response and support from the UK. The record label was from UK,
Okay.
and so we played there quite a lot, and I always enjoyed it. I thought it was, I mean, a lot of things might not be like the same standard as in the rest of Europe, you know, like warm water and stuff like that, but and restrooms or whatever if there are any. But I really love playing shows in the UK. I love it.
Is that
actually.
because of the people, or
Yeah, the crowds are always amazing, and people are into live music. I like that. It's always been fun. It's like we played small clubs with Beggars in the 90s. I've been in other bands that played in the early 90s in the UK as well, like really shit holes, but still had a good time, you know, when playing.
Yep.
But when it comes to bigger venues and so on, I played the Roundhouse a couple of times with
Yeah.
different
Great venue.
bands, and
Oh.
amazing venue, I think. Especially considering the history of it, it's like it's a good setup with everything, but also it's cool that it's like the first venue that the Ramones played in Europe, for example, and you know,
okay? It's-
like good history.
And it's unique, the Roundhouse, like just
Yeah.
visually and everything. It's totally unique as a venue, I think.
Yeah,
Amazing.
so
Nate, have you
that's-
done a show there, or
Yeah, we opened for Clutch there.
Wow.
Just us and Clutch. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a nice place. I like Shepherd's Bush is also a cool place. Also good sounding stage.
Yep.
Also a wooden floor, I believe. That usually
That's right.
does the trick.
Yeah.
For bass response, wood floors. There's nothing like it. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
You laughed at me like I was saying something so stupid.
No, but that's true though. It
Yeah,
is true.
the wooden floors. There's nothing like that.
No,
For
it's
feeling,
great.
for like transmitting like a feeling of bass. Or
Yeah, the feeling of the bass, the sound of the kick drum, the wooden floors, just even the guitar cabinets. It resonates differently. It's better.
Yeah,
I
it
think
sounds-
everybody loves those old like Hammersmith Odeon and the Shepherd's Bush Empire. Those kind of like old theatre style venues in the UK. I think a lot of tour musicians like coming, like the Apollo in Manchester as well. I don't know if you've done that, but
Yeah.
that's my favourite venue. Just because it's the one where I saw a
that's
lot
really
of bands
good.
there.
Especially since they renovated it in like, I don't know, 15 years ago or
Yeah.
something. So they've done all the different ones at the like 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So you start at the top floor with no dressing room.
Oh, that's the academy. That's the academy. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's cool.
smallest
And
venue, top floor.
And what about back home? Is there like a place where you're always wanting to go and play?
No,
Of course.
we don't have any good venues here. That's the truth. That's why
As
you
if
have to put
sat
up
here
with.
and gave us loads of shit about having bad venues in the UK, and then there's like nothing in Sweden that you like.
Sticky Fingers was cool, but it's closed now.
But it's like that's why you have to put up with all the Swedish bands and artists in Europe and the States because we don't have anywhere to play
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah.
No, but it's. I mean, you can joke about it, but we don't have like the same tradition for live music venues as you guys do in both the US and UK. It's first of all, we're a small country, you know, and we've never had the tradition of live music, especially for rock, like in the UK and the US, and the rest is like Germany, for example. You have a cool venue in every little town, but that's not the case here. And
There's
Right.
so many bands that come out of Sweden and so many like ridiculously good players. Like I feel like how does that happen if there's not such a scene for live music?
well, I think for a lot of let's say punk, hardcore, and metal, the people in those genres have always been good of creating their own live circuit, so to speak.
Yeah.
But as far as established venues for all genres of music, we don't have that many really that are good and built for music.
Yeah.
So that's different compared to the UK and the States. There's a few which are good, but also some gets torn down, and there's definitely a gap. You know, there are plenty of pub venues style where you can fit in, I don't know, 150 to 300 people, which is cool. But then there's always a jump to over 1,000 cap, and
Right. Okay.
there's a lot of bands and artists that could do well doing the ones in between that we don't have really.
Yeah.
That
The
we
States
should
has
have
a lot of that. The
plenty
States has a
of.
lot of 500 cap rooms.
So
You know.
I mean, I live
Yeah.
in Stockholm. We have a few here, but and Gothenburg does as well. But outside of the bigger cities, it's not. There should be more, I think.
I will say two things. One, it's really noticeable. Like when I was like touring like nationally around the UK working for bands, and then the first time I went to like Holland, and all the venues are like amazing, and the local council spent money on them, and the
Yeah,
food's
yeah.
really good, and people are like, there's lots of staff there to help you and everything. It's like, oh wow, like they're investing in art over here. This is really cool. It is a little mind blowing.
Yeah.
And secondly, I think like you're right, Nate. Like I think there is a breeding ground like in the States for venues and where you can like level up as a band continuously, and like it helps bands grow.
More
Yeah.
so. They're going away, just like everywhere else. They're going away. But in DC specifically, there's always been a 80 cap, 200 cap, 400 cap, 5 or 6, and then you're at 930 club, you know,
Yeah.
and then the next venue up is 6,000. So,
'Cause
but there's always been that trajectory if you can pull it off.
Especially as like a local band, like your hometown show is always meant to be your biggest show, isn't it? And that's like your selling point to other promoters and other agents that, look, if you give us time, this is what we can achieve in an area. So like
Right.
having that kind of thing, I assume for like you when you were with Lion Eyes and stuff, and like trying to grow within your hometown first, that was quite a big thing. Like having the options of these venues and a yardstick to kind of judge yourself by.
Yeah, I think it used to be more like that pre-internet. But I think the
Okay.
internet changed everything because then, like, you could be, you know, Clutch, for instance, was bigger in Detroit than they were in DC for a very long time. It just happened that that was the place that they
Wow.
got bigger. You know, I think the internet changed a lot of that. I think Lion Eyes was probably more popular in Athens, Greece, than we were in DC for the most part. So
Shit, really? Because you went and played a festival in Athens, or because
because
the
we
internet
were
helped
friends
your
with-
music spread?
yeah, the internet and just being friends with a couple bands that were there, and yeah, I think things have changed quite a bit from the old model.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, which kind of brings us back to where we started, because when I started out in a band, the whole illegal downloading thing had really hit the industry hard, and there was no money around for anybody to invest in bands. You were literally just sent out to try and make it happen on your own, and as a result, we made loads of mistakes, like trying to record our own record and book our own tours that didn't go particularly well as a result. And it's kind of cool now seeing younger bands from the UK that seems to be some support, because these bands are actually starting to do really well. Like there's people backing them, and there's been like maybe a lost period in British music, maybe, or like hard rock music, where not a lot of bands came through, but maybe that's changing again.
I think, well, it's also different because when like at my age, you sort of compare everything to how it was before, you know. But
Yeah.
people that grew up today, they don't have anything to compare it. It is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
And it seems like younger bands, regardless of genre, are kind of good at funding, make it happen on the in totally different ways than I would think of, you know.
Yeah.
As well, which is how it's supposed to be, I guess.
Have you learned or stolen anything from any of these younger bands for your own, like promoting or helping sell your own stuff, just out of interest?
I would like to think so, but I'm not sure if I have. No, but it's a lot of times, like let's say at festivals when you meet bands all over the place, and of different genres as well, and you, for whatever reason, you start to chat with them and whatever, and you think a lot of them, or maybe it's just me, they seem to be so well organized compared to if I would think about how I was when I was 20, 25, you know. It's like I would have died if I would have been born now, you know. It's like how it amazes me that I'm still doing it compared to how stupid I was compared to all these guys and gals that they seem to have it really together, you know.
I mean, yeah, I get it. I mean, looking back, I feel quite stupid about how we approached some stuff, and no wonder it didn't really work out. But hey, Nate, did you find the same thing, that you thought the industry was like a little bit vacuous at the time? Because you would have been coming through, you would be a bit ahead of what we were trying to do, but did you feel like that whole download and streaming thing, because it really knocked the industry for a while, made it harder for you guys to break through anything?
I wasn't full on. We weren't full on. We were kind of in that in between space. I think had we come a few years earlier, that it probably would have helped us actually to get onto some LimeWire downloads, you know, and I just heard about this. I heard yesterday about this rap artist who was going on LimeWire during file sharing and changing the file name to songs that were very popular on the radio at the time.
Who's
but it was just his song.
Yeah.
So millions of people discovered this guy's music through that. And I think having to constantly be a pirate and figure out your way through these through the trends and stuff, I think I probably would have done pretty well in that time period. But I'm very happy with where I'm at right now, and it's been a real pleasure to like work with Per in the studio and stuff over the last year. And I don't want to talk too much about it yet, but we got to work on some music that turned into a record, and it's my favorite thing I've ever been a part of. So I just wanted to thank you for participating in that and for driving me around Sweden and for just even answering my texts, which are mostly inappropriate.
And hey, thanks for coming on the show too. I really do appreciate that.
No, it's just fun. So
we're just having fun.
This is it. I've had a really good time, and I hope you've enjoyed it too.
I
think we've covered some great ground. So I mean, let's wrap it there if that's cool with you guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you guys.
I think we're good.
Per, we'll see you soon.
Yeah, I hope we actually get to meet properly, and I can maybe buy a record off you in person. That'd be great. That would make me feel so much better.
He owes you one.
I really do. I've streamed that shit a lot though, so like maybe you've made at least like £1 off me by this point.
No way.
I'm sure. I'm fine.
All right, guys.
Cool. Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
You take care.
Speak to you soon. Bye now. Thank you, Pep.
Bye.
Congratulations on making it to the end of another episode of Tour Talk. You can keep up to date with us across the socials at Tour Talk Pod, so that's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon. Please subscribe, comment, like, and share, and we will see you next week.